All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever in the world you are. Africa, Australia, China, Europe, North America, wherever you find yourself. Welcome if you're joining us online. Thank you for joining this Saturday. I don't know what time it would be if you're in Australia. I think you might almost be either in Sunday already, but wherever you are. Welcome. We are coming to you live from Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. My name is Leo Napolo Johnson, and I'm super pleased to be here this morning with two of our panelists, one of them joining us for the first time. And welcome to the Kuwoo Movement. This is the Turning Point talk show where we bring out the opinions and perspectives of young people. Because oftentimes the decision we make often affect them in different ways. And if you're a parent like me, it gets even more complicated. So without wasting any time, we'll go around the table. We will get some introductions done. Today I have two panelists with me. We will start with the lady first, Mary Paul. We'll turn over to you to introduce yourself.
Thank you. It's so great to be here this morning. I'm really excited to talk about issues that are affecting young people and things we're interested in and really giving our perspective on some of these topics. My name is Mary Paul Duaisoa. I am a now third-year university student. I'm studying human rights law, essentially human rights and human diversity, and then also a dual degree in law. So I'm very interested in all issues, social justice, but then also youth-specific as well.
All right, Mary Paul, we know you, but we don't know. Tell us a little bit about your background. Give us a little bit.
Yeah, I'm from Sierra Leone, West Africa, born in Canada, but I have a lot of ties to back home through my parents. They always taught me that I should be proud of where I'm from and then also share that with the world. So in 2024, I started my own kind of poetry platform called Effervescence, and through that I share inspirational messages and poems and words of encouragement to try and share my perspective through my lived experience. But I've always loved to write, and I've loved art and creating art, so I found that was a great way to share that as well.
Thank you, Mary Paul. Okay, we will be coming back and we will hear a little bit more. Our next panelist here is Lemuel, and we would like him to introduce himself. Some of you may have already known him because he's been here on previous shows, but if this is your first time, Lemuel, introduce yourself, please.
Good morning. My name is Lemuel Johnson, and I'm excited to speak on the podcast today.
All right. Here's a short because he's been here before. So before we go any further, what's on your mind? Anything. It could be one thing, two things, three things. But you woke up this morning, Monday to this Saturday, a whole week has gone by, or 2-3 weeks. Or it could be something troubling you. It could be something you're excited about. It could be anything. So what's on your mind? We'll start with you. What's on your mind?
What's it called?
Sit up.
School.
School. What about school? Could be 10,000 things. Pressure, tormenting you, stressed, all's going well.
I have a test on Tuesday.
Oh, what subject?
Math.
Oh, I'll leave that to you. I'm not doing high school math anymore. But do you feel prepared for it or not?
Yeah.
You feel ready?
Yeah.
All right. Always good. Mary Paul, what's on your mind? Anything else? That's the only thing on your mind right now? Okay. Mary Paul, what's on your mind?
I have to say I don't envy you. I actually don't have to deal with high school math either, thankfully. I don't have to deal with school right now at all, which is kind of nice. I'm on summer break. But I do feel, at first I felt kind of out of sorts having nothing to do. But I think now that the weather is getting warmer, it's getting nicer outside, at least I'm excited to start doing more outdoor things and enjoying the weather. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so let's get right into it. For those of you who may have seen the flyer that we shared about a week ago on social media, we're talking high school parties. The time I went to high school and where I went to high school is a whole different ballgame, so I cannot say I can relate. Absolutely not. I can't, so it's good that both of you are here. Both of you going to school in Canada. You went to high school in Canada as well. Let me know you're in high school right now, in Canada as well. So this is your world. You know more about this than some of us will ever do. So this topic was brought up by the way by Lemmy. So I will let you set the stage for why you brought up this topic. And again, the rules here is that nothing said here can be used against you at home by your mom, your dad, or whoever. This is a safe space. What we say here is respected for what it is. So I told all your parents that before, including myself. I advise myself that don't go home and start asking questions about why someone said what. So let me set the stage for us. Why did you want to talk about this, or why did you even suggest this as a topic?
Because African parents seem to not like to understand a different perspective about how things go and what is right or wrong or what really happens.
Good. Couldn't be more interesting about us African parents, what we think, or what we believe, or what we don't believe, or what we think is right, or what we think is not right. So, set it for us. What is your pet peeve? What is it that you think African parents, and we'll come back in rounds, but I want you to set it up before we go to Mary Paul. What do you think African parents get wrong, or don't seem to understand, or don't seem to get, and why do you think so?
If I tell you every single party that I went to, I knew the person who was hosting it, I'd be lying to you. So, I feel like it's not reasonable for you to say that, oh, I gotta know this person, I gotta meet this person. If I'm going with a few people that you may know or can introduce to you because I actually know who they are and we're all going together, I feel like that's more reasonable than saying you want to go meet somebody that I don't even know.
Okay, so what I'm getting from you is that African parents, we like to know who you're going with. We like to know who party you're going to, and all of the details. In fact, if we want to know the size of the shoes the person is wearing as well sometimes. Yeah. And you were saying that that's not necessary, right? Is that what I'm hearing from you?
It's not completely necessary.
Okay, so that means you think African parents should be okay when their children are going to a high school party, for example, but maybe they don't know the person hosting the party or whatever that is, right? That's what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I feel like.
Okay, we'll come back to you. Mary Paul, we set the stage about high school parties. So, I will come in later to talk about why maybe I think African parents are concerned or whatever that is or so. Right or wrongfully so. The conversation is not about who's right or who's wrong. The conversation is more about perspectives. What do people think? So, Mary Paul, you heard the topic. You heard Lemuel set us up for why he thinks this topic is important. So I'll pass it over to you. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think you pointed out a lot of great things there. I think my African parent, my mom, has really rubbed off on me in terms of having that need for safety and always kind of questioning, because I'm the friend that'll ask, like, who's hosting it, who's going to be there, what are we going to be doing, because I'm just more cautious in that way. But I do agree that if you go with the right people and you have a good group of friends that you trust, you aren't too worried about the other details, about maybe who's hosting the party. That I don't disagree with. I think it's just important to be safe. Definitely, if you have people you trust, that's a good foundation. I would definitely always start with that, because at least if anything goes wrong or you don't want to be there anymore, you can just go with your crew, So I think that's always a safe place to start.
So I'm going to play my parent role here and wear my parent hat, if you want to call it that way. In school, where you guys are in high school, for you in high school, Mary Paul is now in university, so there's a bit of a difference there. The school does not even allow you guys to go on a school trip without being supervised, without us signing all kinds of papers and liability waivers and all of that. You guys seem to be cool with that. I don't hear the same complaint when the school insists. And in fact, most of the time when you're going on school trips, it's at very safe places. It's not like everybody knows the place and everything. Now, that's not to say things can go wrong in those places as well. But the general principle I'm trying to get at is the school is saying we don't trust that you guys can go to this place by yourself safely and come back. Whatever the reasons are, whether it's stereotypical, whether it's correct or wrong, you guys accept that. You bring the forms home, we sign the forms, you go on your trip, you come back, everybody's happy. In the same breath, you guys come back and tell us you want to go to these night parties. But we shouldn't try to get to the bottom of the details. Who's hosting? Do you know the person? Whose house it is? Can I speak to the adult in the house? Like all of the things we want to do. Now I get it. I was a young person before. I know you don't want to look like you this person who your parents don't trust. Or if you're 5 going to the party and your friend's parents don't do that, and you're the only person that your parents are on you. I get it. I'm not going to pretend. I'm an adult now. I don't relate to it, but I can imagine when I was there, you don't want to look like that. So I understand it. So my question to you, don't you think it's fair for African parents wanting to dig deeper if you're okay with the school doing the exact same to you?
Well, I disagree with the school doing the exact same thing because the school does not trust us to go on our own. The school doesn't trust themselves to take us without your permission. The school's giving you the form so you can sign it so you can have our permission to take. Because they're not saying that your child can't go to this place on their own. They're saying, I don't want to take your child because they're under my supervision without your permission.
That's a fair point. I'm not going to debate that. Legally, you're right because the school is saying the law says you live with your parents, so if we're taking you somewhere, your parents must agree. So again, I'm not going to say that's not accurate because that is accurate because the school is trying to cover their insurance, their liability, and all of that stuff. Fair enough. Now let me ask, as a parent, or you can take this on and then you can come in. As a parent, you have a child that is a teenager. Research, facts, reality have shown that peer pressure is a real thing. Some people have resilience, they can withstand it and not fall for it. Others do not. Again, we are all different people depending on who you are. It doesn't matter what home you come from. Because some people are like, oh, you come from a girl, who you come from? It doesn't really matter. It's really because no matter what home you come from, you develop as an individual. Your resilience or resistance to certain things may be very different from even your mom, from your dad, or from your sister, or from your brother, even though you all can grow up in the exact same home. In fact, at home you can see it. Different people got different ways they handle things. Number one, let's talk about parents speaking to the adult, especially for house or home parties. Parties held at banquet halls or whatever is different because usually the school provides supervision there or whatever that is. We're talking about these private parties held at people's homes. And African parents, I for one can tell you, the first question I'm going to ask is, who is the adult? Can I speak to the person whose house you're going to for a party? Do you think African parents should only trust what their child tells them, or they should go as far as speaking to the adult hosting? I'll let you go and then we'll come back to you.
I think if I have to be honest, I would say sometimes there isn't an adult involved at all. So there isn't really someone you can speak to because maybe the child is like throwing the party on their own. So, and in that case, I mean, you could ask, like the African parent could ask their child, but would they be truthful to say, oh no, this is like a little party that they're throwing without the parent even knowing? Like, I think at that point you're asking for more trouble by asking more questions. So it's just one of those things, you pick your battles. It's like, do I trust my child enough to be safe and, you know, abide by the kind of rules that I've set in my household, or do I want to prohibit them from going out at all and kind of even giving them that test and finding out if they can be responsible?
Yep, no, again, fair point. You're right, because again, we shouldn't pretend that we were not in high school before. All of us were. Who doesn't want to sneak out to a party where it would be all them and their peers? Let me know. Do you think, I mean, now that Mary Paul has thrown into the mix, that some of these parties at times, there's actually no adult to be spoken to? In this case, then, I'll ask the question this way for you, and you can address the previous question if you want. Shouldn't there be some honesty and truthfulness in this case? Because what confuses me sometimes when you say, oh, I want to speak to an adult, and then you notice a resistance, right? Now, whatever the case is, it could be because there's not an adult involved, or it could be whatever the reasons are. As a parent, your reflex go just through the roof. The moment there is a resistance, you're wondering, are they doing something illegal there? Is something funny going on I don't know about? Whatever that is. Because as a minor under 18, your liability is your parents' liability. You're not an adult yet because you're under your parents' supervision. It's not like when you're an adult when you go and do something, you bear the consequences. Even at that, it still affects your family and everybody else. So my question to you is, should there be some level of truthfulness then to this, that if there is a high school party that you really want to go to for whatever reason it is, and there is no adult involved, do you think it's fair or advisable to be honest with your parents and say, to be fair, it's a group of us or a friend of mine is deciding to throw this party. Truth be told, it's not something he's doing with his parents or whatever that is. Now, I know right away, I would freak out as an African parent. I'm not going to deny the fact, rightfully or wrongfully so. Sometimes even go right away, no, in capital letters. But do you think then as young people, because it's a two-way street, you are trying to help us understand your world, which I know is difficult because we're parents, we have sometimes all the power. That is true, it's an imbalanced relationship most of the time. But you're trying to help us understand your world, just as sometimes we don't understand and can relate to it. So what do you think? How do you approach this when you want to go to a party that is of this nature where you don't want your parent to speak to any adult? But what is the best way to approach it?
I feel like more times than not, you're going with a group of friends. So I feel like it's like more reasonable to like, I'd rather you speak to my closer friends' parents or their parents about if they're going or not or how they feel about it, rather than speak to somebody I'm not really close to that's hosting a party or somebody whose parents aren't even there. So I'd rather you speak to like the people I'm going with or like the group of people I'm going to be with that night.
Okay, so again, your point is your character reference should be with the maybe parents of your close friends or the ones who you hang out with, especially if they're going with you or you guys are going together. So in essence, you're telling me if those kids' parents can be cool with it, I should get some confidence and trust and be cool with it too. Again, fair argument. I mean, I can have the pushbacks on it, but it is a fair argument. And I'll come to the other side, Mary Paul. As teenagers especially, because this is when you start to have all of these experiences in your teenage years and parties, the way you conduct yourself out there and everything. Parents' concerns usually are not about trying to stop your teenage child from having these experiences, because in fact these experiences inform who you are as an adult, and being exposed to them is also an important part of your growth. Because as an adult, if you have no experience or exposure of them, you can make more costly mistakes with them because you didn't have the opportunity to get exposed to them and see how safe or unsafe they can actually be. So I do not disagree with that fact. But the concerns have been, sometimes the concerns about your teenagers from home. You've seen their flaws. You've seen their shortcomings. You see it every day because they're with you, they live with you, you see all the issues. So you're asking yourself, can I trust my teenager to go to a party, no adult supervision, in the midst of all his buddies? And now we don't control you don't control who else is coming to the party. And we know sometimes they come there with drugs. Sometimes they come there, because you can't control who comes. You can control yourself. And that doesn't mean I'm agreeing that you participate. There are people who go to those parties, and even if that happens, they do not participate. They're able to hold their own and stay in their space. But how do you address the concerns of parents that, especially now, that drugs is so prevalent, and some of the dangerous ones, most dangerous ones. Not that any of them are not dangerous, but some are more harmful than others. And then all the other things that can go wrong, crime, saying no kids, shoplifting, doing all, and that doesn't mean these kids are bad kids either. Some of them have just fallen from the peer pressure or fallen with the wrong crew or whatever. How do you guys see yourself allaying the concerns and fears of parents about these things?
I think, like you rightfully pointed out, it's about the parent also understanding their child. And if they are noticing that maybe they don't have the strongest will, or they're not able to really hold their own, that they're easily swayed, by peer pressure, I think in those moments it's important to really have a conversation and really say, this is maybe what, because I think a lot of the times why we might get frustrated is we never get an answer why. It's like a no, you're not going, and that's it. So maybe if there was that conversation of, I don't think you're ready for what could happen at this environment, I don't think you're prepared, or maybe this is your opportunity to prove to me that you're prepared. But the thing is, because there is no supervision, because nobody's really going to tell you what happened, you wouldn't know as a parent, and you can't depend on maybe the child to also be truthful and tell you exactly what happened. But I think it's difficult, really, because as a parent, I would say you have every right to really be like, I don't think that will be a safe environment for you. But if you do notice that your child is responsible, they have responsible friends, they usually make good decisions, I think you can give them the benefit of the doubt to try it as a test. And really, if you have that wave of open communication and trust between you and your child, then it's easier to kind of let that decision happen.
So great point. So let me all come to you on this. How then? So there are a few things you mentioned. Number one, truthfulness, right? And also from parents, an opportunity to test it out. And I'm not saying it to say sometimes your child, even the most disciplined and most trustful, we're not fall here and there. That's not true. Even as adults, we know that there are sometimes you walk away going like, well, why did I do that? Like, I shouldn't have done that. Like, you kick yourself. As soon as you walk away, you're like, I shouldn't have done that. So I'm not sitting here and be like, oh, look for the perfect child. That will just go out there and just be stellar at everything. No. But you mentioned the point of truthfulness, right? And honesty. And let's be fair, I've always said this. Just because you're truthful doesn't mean your parent will not get angry. Right? Just because sometimes kids are like, oh, you said I should be truthful. I was truthful and then you got angry. I'm like, just because you're truthful doesn't mean your parents are. However, I often say, you can sleep in peace. Knowing that your parent is not going to find out another thing that you hid. So you're going to bed and you're just hoping that they don't check on this or they don't catch this or this. So it's like for that next few days you're on edge because you know there is something you covered up or there is something you're not honest about. Or even for a long time you're on edge because sometimes it takes months and then your parent comes to find out that you lied to them about something. Now something that you thought was dealt with 3 months ago, all of a sudden now you're really getting it. And that's why I say the truth shall set you free. I'm not saying the parents will not get angry, but you can walk knowing that there's really nothing for you to go and find out. So deal with it as it is, and you parent, but nothing else is there. What I've told you is what happened. It is so you can walk away feeling free, but two, you start to build that bridge of trust. And I know as a child, when you tell me something, I'm able to say I trust it. Even if it gets me angry for what that you did, I can trust it. So the question now is, can we now see the responsibility on the part, Lemuel, of you guys bringing this question to you?
Well, I feel like
go ahead.
That's like a issue that you have to deal with inside your household. Like if you don't, like, it's a different thing when you don't trust your child because of so and so that happened, which is more understandable. And it's also a different thing when they haven't, like, when you guys have that trust, but you're saying no because of this or that. Like I feel like for this to be able to work, you have to build trust with your child first, which is understandable.
So let me push back on you. What are some of the ways you advise that parents build trust with each other? Because I know we say these things sometimes, all the time, but sometimes we don't sit down to really think and say how. It's not as obvious to every parent. Some parents may be good at it, but some parents, it may not be obvious to them. So from your perspective, what are some of the ways you think parents need to work to build trust? Because building trust is work, it's engagement, it's different forms of it. So what are some of the ways that you can help parents? If parents are listening right now and thinking about this situation, so what are some of the things you can tell them from your experience and perspective that helps in building trust?
Like, even if you don't feel comfortable with your child going to a party or whatever, right? Maybe set some rules in place, like check in with me at this time, or what's it called? You got to be home by this time. Or like if something happens, let me know. But like that, those are all ways that like you build trust with your kid by like, and like over time, like maybe he or she's allowed to stay out later because you've been building all this trust with them, or because you've been going through all these things.
So everything you just said is job for the parents. What I didn't hear you say, as a young person, for example, when you live at home with your parents, you know the things that touch them. After a while, you know right away the things that get them upset, the things that get them going, the things that make them happy. You know because you've lived with them your whole life and you've seen the ins and outs. So what I want to hear now, I agree with the part of the parent, right? Engage with your child. Try to put in certain rules that you can agree upon, that they should follow, to allow you to trust them in that way. But what about you, the young person? What are your responsibilities in that case? Because sometimes for parents, it can be painful to see that every time you're repeating, you're going over the exact same thing, because you hope that your child learns, right? You hope that when we do this 4, 5, 6 different times, I'm hoping that you realize now that this is the norm instead of it looks like every time we're starting from scratch or so. So what are some of the responsibilities you think from young people that they should think about that can help their parents fulfill their duty to them as well? Because I think it's a two-way street.
Well, like, they could have conversations with their parents about what they feel they're uncomfortable with, or like things they don't agree with, and like make it like an open discussion. Like you say, like they say their piece about it so you understand, but then also trying to hear from your perspective so they understand why you're doing it, rather than it's not like you're just doing it to do it, but they get a full understanding on why you feel this is happening, and or even how we could change that.
Mark, I'll come to you about this. What about the learnings and responsibility from a young person? Because, for example, if a young person came to me and said, hey, I want to go to this party, I really want to go to this party. It's my friend's party. I'll be honest, it's not an adult hosted or supervised party. My friend is hosting it. We would be all high school students there, most likely. And yes, I agree. There are some kids that are rowdy. I don't know what other kids are going to do. I can't promise that. But at least I can promise what I would do or I wouldn't do. Parent says, great, here are the things I don't want. I don't want you following any crew that's going to get in trouble. I don't want you doing drugs. I don't want you, like all the things that parents will usually say, the things I'm trusting you to go, and I don't want you to do X, Y, Z. And you agree. You said, yes, I can't do it. Oh, I wouldn't do it, at the very least in honor of this trust.
Yeah.
And then you go, let's say you come back after the party, everything. Next morning, you get drug tested. And yes, you did drugs. The next time, and then you say you want to go to this party. What do you think this parent has to do? Because you think about it. Right?
Yeah. I don't know, that's a tough one. I think, like, me and my mom, we have a very trust-built kind of relationship, because I learned very early on that there is no point in lying, kind of. Like, I felt like I gained more.
You still get found out. You think about lying, eventually,
yeah,
even if it takes long, you get found out.
Yeah, in our particular situation, like, my mom is my best friend, so I don't really feel the need to lie. I almost want to tell her things that happen. Like, if something will happen, exactly what will happen. Like, if something crazy happens at a party, like, I'm gonna tell her, like, oh my gosh, you don't even know. So it's one of those things. I feel like you gain more, because in that sense, if you the first time you didn't do the drugs like your parents requested, then you're going to be able to go to the party the next time.
And they get more comfortable.
Exactly. They get more comfortable allowing you to do the things that you want. You're going to get more of that independence. But again, things do happen.
That's what I was about to say. Because nobody can pretend like you didn't have a slip or whatever that is, right? And that's what I'm trying to find out, because if I'm a parent and that happens, the next time I'm thinking, what evidence do I have?
That you're not going to do it again.
And these things will be available. They're available to almost every high school party now, because they're so available. Kids can just lay their hands on them. So what I'm trying to find out is, and as a young person, and maybe you can chime in as well. As a young person, let's say you went to a party, you and your parents agreed that you're not going to do this, you're not going to do that. And let's say you were there. Whatever the reason was, you slipped and you fell in. You came back. You said nothing. Right? You kept it to yourself. Your parents went to check, however they check. They found out. And then now, they're now more not open to you going to another party for whatever reasons that they say. Sometimes I'm going to go straight to the extreme, that go from here all the way to the other side with nothing in between. What do you think you have to do, to help them know that, you know what, this was a one-off mistake? Because that happens all the time. This is not something I go out there that I want to go try and do what I'm trying to do. Yes, I agree. I did it. This happened. Whatever. We are, even adults, we've made mistakes before every day. So how do you work? Because that's the thing about it. It's not about whether you made a mistake or not. A mistake is something that you honestly worked your way from. But something that you keep doing over and over, then it's not a mistake anymore. You're intentionally doing that. So how do you think you can work to earn that trust again from your parents, genuinely, to show that this piece was a mistake?
Well, you gotta understand, like, and be like, you gotta understand why they're disciplining you for this or telling you can't do this anymore, because you went against them and didn't tell them what you did and let them find out about it. So you gotta be like, you gotta try and be more understanding with your parents about why they feel that way and why you might not be able to do this thing the next time it comes up, and try and go to them and see what you can do to build back that trust for you to be able to do that, to do this thing or that thing. But until then, you gotta really just, like, you can't really fight with them on it.
So, because in my case, I'll use my experience and the way I see things from my perspective. It is the repetition. Let's be honest. Sometimes kids want to try stuff.
Yeah.
Even adults. It's not because they have any other plan to go keep doing this, or sometimes it's just that you be like, I just want to try. I think I want whatever that is. And then at times you can convince yourself that you have the ability to withstand it when you try.
Exactly.
You do that to yourself. You can, I'm just trying it. I don't. But then some people are able to. Some people, it becomes the problem. The moment they try it or so. So my thing is, how do we deal with that with young people to say, I trusted you. You let down that trust, or you lied to me or so. Now I'm standing here wondering whether what you're telling me is the absolute truth. And the relationship often gets sour when parents have to go to the extreme to find out the truth, because then they start to use all of the extreme tactics. And you know, whether it's pressuring you, or now they're picking up the phone and calling your friends to ask them whether your friend's story jives with your story. Or now you're picking up the phone calling your friends' parents to find out when your friends got home, if you said you were with them or you all left. It just brings in a whole lot of other pressures, and then now they come and find out that your story, and then you're saying, oh, okay, you pushed me to that extreme to go and find the truth. That means you easily cannot tell me the truth. Now, it may be from other things already that has happened. It may be the nature of the relationship. But I think young people often excuse themselves from having part of that responsibility of helping their parents, because not all parents are great. Some parents themselves are struggling. Some parents have figured out how to do it well and are fortunate to have that type of, but some parents, it's not that they don't want that relationship, but they don't know how to go about it. And sometimes young people just get upset and frustrated. So how, as a young person, what I'm trying to get at, how do you think you can help your parents? If you see, and some of your parents are not from here. They don't know how the rules work here. Besides that, these are different type of challenges that are here compared to if you were in Africa dealing with your child. So they're being through challenges that they've never seen before. I'll be honest. I say it all the time. I don't know how to deal with drug addiction and mental health. If my child was going through that. I don't. I would try what I know as a parent or experiences that I've had. But truth be told, it gets to the point where you just get frustrated. Because I don't have the tools most of the time that is required to deal with that type of stuff. So if you're an African parent and your child gets into that kind of situation, you don't have the tools, you don't have the ability. How can we start to help young people see that no, you can be more of a help to your parent on this journey than yourself?
I think we do have a responsibility as young people. Like you said, it's a two-way street, and then also, as much as we learn from our parents learn from us. So I think with things like mental health, with things like drug addiction, it's about education and trying to find ways to teach one another about those issues. It's something that you would have to bring up as an issue at first for it to be something that you kind of discuss. So maybe, like you said, how when you just want to try something for the first time, I think if you can be very honest, I don't know how you would broach the conversation with an African parent, like, I want to try drugs. I don't know how that would go. Like, maybe you want to try like a vape or like weed, something like that is more common among young people. I think it would just have to be a conversation of, well, let's talk about maybe what is the addiction levels that could happen if you do try something like that. What are the potential dangers and consequences? I think it's always important, just lay the foundation of teaching someone what that would entail. Like, that's what my mom did with me, at least. Even when I first said I wanted to go to like a house girl party and everything like that, it was, okay, this is what could happen, this is maybe how you should prepare yourself, this is what you should keep in mind. So I think knowing that, it didn't necessarily scare me out of it, but it was more like, consciousness is definitely what it did for me. And
that's still what I stop a young person from trying to go into, but at the very least, you can't say you were not aware.
You don't know, exactly.
At the very least.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, thank you. Maybe we'll go to the last segment here to close up on the show. And the last segment for me is going to be, how do you hold your own as a young person? It's very dangerous out there. Kids are exposed to all kinds of stuff. Things that even the parents cannot deal with, right? Everything from whether it's violence, guns, drugs, and the list goes on and on and on and on and on. How, as a young person, how do you hold your own? Because as a parent, nobody's going to be behind your child every day. And even more dangerous as you cross that 18 mark and leave high school. To be fair, the world is now at your feet. You can completely destroy yourself, or you can build yourself with your parents watching helplessly most of the time, right? And they will still keep trying, but at that point, they got very little tools that they can hold you by, compared to when you're under 18, where certain things you can't even sign if they don't show up, right? Now you can sign anything, period. What are some of the ways that you think young people can hold their own, especially when you get among your friends where now if you don't do it, you don't look cool. You can get bullied, right? And sometimes you want to still be in that crew. Any crew that can bully you, my question always is, do you think you need to be in that crew? If that crew bullies you, only because you took a certain decision to not partake in something or whatever, do you still think that's the kind of crew you should be in again? I don't know. So I'll ask the question to you. How can you hold your own, and how can you determine who your real friends are by what type of influence they're having on you?
No, you definitely pointed out an important thing for young people to keep in mind is, if you have friends that are forcing you to do something or that ridicule you for not doing something, they're not really your friends, because your real friends don't care about kind of influencing your personal decisions. They respect you for being able to hold your own. Personally, I think it comes down to really knowing who you are and what you stand for, and kind of appreciating yourself for who you are. Personally, I've done a lot of work to, like, it's a very difficult time when you're a teenager, because you're so kind of, you're like a sponge. So kind of anything that comes your way, you're trying to experiment and see who you are and what you like. But I think there's some core values that you get from your upbringing and from the people that you trust in your life that inform the decisions that you make. And if you're able to identify what those core things are, there are some decisions you're just never gonna make. You're not gonna sacrifice who you are and kind of what you represent, because like for my family, I'm always told, you don't just represent yourself when you go outside, you represent your family, your lineage. So there's so much more kind of at stake, if you will, than just the personal decisions you want to make in life. And so like when I did go to university, it was a big jump. I was by myself, but in my mind I knew I was here for a greater purpose than just myself.
Yeah, well, thank you. Let me say a question.
Can you re-ask the question?
No, I was like, how do you hold your own as a young person in the midst of all of this, especially when you're with a group of friends who may ridicule you because they try to force you to do something and you don't want to do it, and they don't respect it and they ridicule you, and then you feel like you have to be with them, so you go and do it. How do you hold your own? And first of all, do you consider those group of friends friends? Because, for example, what if it was something that might destroy your health, right? What if they said, if you smoke weed, you will have hypertension, or you will have a seizure, because health-wise, there are people who react to it. And you're with a crew who says, oh, let's go in, and you're like, no guys, I can't, or whatever. And they start to ridicule you, to force you to do it. Do you think that crew is still your group of friends? Or how can you hold your own in the midst of that?
Well, I don't think it's all about the type of person you are. Me personally, I don't think I would let somebody force me into something that I wasn't like, that I didn't want to try or I didn't want to do. But like, also for people who it's not like, it's more of like an understanding of yourself and where you're at, and like having confidence in yourself. Because if you feel like you need to be around people that are gonna tell you to do this and tell you to do that, and you do it, it's like that's like a problem within yourself that maybe you should talk about with somebody, or like try understanding that you shouldn't be doing something for somebody else.
Thank you. So we'll do our closing here, everybody. It's almost an hour mark. Mary Paul, I'll start with you. The closing.
Yeah, this was a really great conversation. I think we covered a lot of important ground, and I hope that like my biggest takeaways from today were to have that self-confidence, be able to hold on to your own and your integrity, your values, and also start to build that relationship of trust with your parent if you haven't already, because you gain so much more from being open and honest with your parent.
Yeah, thank you. Let me close in.
I would just think that kids and parents should just try and find a line where they could where they could both be comfortable on and feel like they can rely on each other for certain things.
Keyword, rely on each other. So just as the parent has to uphold that reliance, I hope young people can think about the fact that too, your parents are relying on you to do certain things. I will close by saying this. When I was in university, when I just started university, I used to go to all these university parties. There was always some type of drugs there. If it wasn't weed, in those days, we didn't have all the fancy things they have now that can make it easier for you to think. So you have to pass the joint around in the circle. Because I didn't want to do it, and because I realized there was a lot of pressure at these parties, I have one of my old prescription bottles. I will always change the date, and then I'll just put a bunch of Tylenol pills in it. I'll take it with me. So whenever I was going around in the circle, I'll take it and just tell the guys, because I'm on prescription, I can't. And I will pop one or two until I have to take my medication every 2 hours. It's Tylenol, so I don't mind popping a Tylenol or whatever that is. So what that did was took away the peer pressure. Nobody had to pressure me because clearly they saw I was on prescription. And they understood that. And nobody had to think that, oh, I'm not cool with the crew because of that. Because that's, again, you can find your own mechanisms and ways to push back on it without necessarily pushing back. So till to this day, some of my friends believe I'm on permanent prescription. Especially those who went to school with me. Because when we used to go to that party, they always saw my bottle with me. So most of them believe I have like a permanent prescription that I must take. And it worked. It worked beautifully. People would just skip me. Usually, it got to a point where people got used to it and they would just skip me. But they didn't ever see not wanting to invite me to the party because they felt like, I was cool with people, we hung out, but sorry guys, my health condition just not allowed me to do this. So if you were thinking ways, there are all kinds of smart ways, because some people don't like to be confrontational. You don't say no, but so think about your own smart coping mechanisms that you can be able to do. But ladies and gentlemen, for those of you online, thank you very much. Emmanuel Abu Johnson, Jim Smith, Wicole, Patrick Snowware. Thanks to all of you, for watching, for joining us today. We appreciate it. I hope you share the show. And if there are any comments or questions, we ran out of time. Please always post it for the next show. I will recap the comments. So I apologize today for not paying attention. I was just so much into the conversation that I didn't. But have a good weekend. Enjoy the weekend, and I hope next week starts for you in the best possible way. My name is Leo Napolo Johnson, and I'm super, super pleased to have been your host today with Mary Paul and Lemuel giving their perspectives on the issue with high school parties and African parents. Bye-bye.